Forget gurus. Forget anyone claiming to be an online business expert without going through the challenges of entrepreneurship themselves. The Real Money, Real Business podcast is here to prove the best insights in online business comes from your fellow online business builders. We dig into stories of entrepreneurs selling their business on the Empire Flippers marketplace so that you can learn how they made their business profitable, how they overcame obstacles, and what lessons they learned in their online journey. If you want to take your business and your knowledge to the next level, you've come to the right podcast. Let's get started.
Hey everyone, Lauren here with another great business to discuss on this episode of the Real Money, Real Business podcast. Today's guest is Joel, and he's selling his Amazon FBA business on the Empire Flippers marketplace. So welcome to the show, Joel. How are you doing today?
I'm very good. How are you?
I'm fantastic, and I'm so excited to have you on the show to learn more about your business. But before we dive in, I'm going to go over a brief summary of the business. As I mentioned, this is an Amazon FBA business. It's in the children's, sports, and hobbies niches, and it was created in June 2016. The average monthly revenue for the business is $51,146, and it makes an average of $13,155 per month in net profit. For everyone listening, you can visit empireflippers.com/marketplace and search for listing number 57283 to learn more about the business. Or you can unlock this listing to start your due diligence if you're interested in purchasing this asset. So now that we've learned more about the business, let's have a look and see what assets are included in the sale. There is a domain and all site content and files, an Amazon Central Seller account with 3 SKUs, supplier contracts and relationships, Facebook and Instagram social media accounts, a trademark, an email list with 2,000 subscribers, and all logo files and previous photos and videos. So now that we know more about the business we're talking about, let's hear from the seller. Joel, can you tell us a little bit about your background in building and running online businesses?
Sure. Well, actually, I didn't have much of a background. I did quite a bit of stuff online prior, but in terms of e-commerce business, this was, I guess, the first successful attempt. And it's quite a niche product and based on passion as well. And so I think that was probably the competitive edge I had in building this.
Okay, fantastic. So how did you come up with the idea to start this business in particular?
Well, it's hobby related, and it's something that I thought would be great for parents and their kids. And in creating that, the market reacted very positively. And so I just kind of kept going with it and kept giving more of what they were asking for. And it turned out quite well. And it's kind of at a turning point now of really going to the next level of business. And so, I'm here in case there are people interested in taking the torch and running with it.
Yeah, I think you've reached a very exciting point in the business. So, Joel, what made you choose the Amazon FBA business model over something like a traditional e-commerce store like Shopify, for example?
Environment. I was around others who were involved in FBA, and I had been researching what I could potentially bring to their catalog that might be valuable. And I combined a passion with a opening in a niche that I saw, and here we are.
Yeah, I mean, you certainly do sound like you're quite passionate about the business, and it comes from labor of love by the sounds of it. What are the reasons you've put the business on the marketplace now?
Well, I think the labor of love is really what got it to have the success and got it to the point where it is now. From here on out, it's actually what I would consider, and I think other advisors have told me, a really good foundation for those who have experience in taking successful businesses and growing them to multi-million-dollar businesses. And in terms of, working with influencers, expanding into retail, different kinds of marketing things that can be done, I think that's where the opportunities lie. And that's something that isn't really my forte. And so I would have to build a team around that. And that might be very interesting to your listeners and buyers. So I'm here.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you mentioned that this is your first foray into online business. So I'm sure it's been quite a good learning journey so far. Is there anything that you've learned from this business that you would apply to any future businesses or sites?
Ooh, interesting question. I think one of the most important, especially for a business kind of starting out, and especially a passion-related business, I think it's really important to invest into the people who are looking and buying your product. Care about their overall experience from beginning to end, even if it's just looking at the imagery on your listing, all the way to what they might have to say to their friends about what they experienced. And I think if you really nail that to start off with, it's going to be less of an uphill battle for you, and people will be there to help you along the way.
Yeah, that's a great answer. It's important to keep your customers front and center in the business. So on the flip side of the coin, I'm sure there were inevitably a few hiccups along the way. Was there anything that if you had to go back and start this business venture again, is there anything you'd do differently the second time around?
Well, the business did start 5 years ago, and it could probably have reached the level it has earlier, but I was really beginning bootstrapping. So it's quite a capital intensive business to run, FBA. And so there's certain kind of limitation in terms of how quickly you can grow with, if it's capital restrictive. So I think if I was going to consider growing another business, I would want to not waste more time by not having capital. So I think it's important to consider investments and partners and, do what you can so that you can grow quickly.
Yeah, that's a great point. So you mentioned that marketing isn't really your forte. What do you currently do in terms of marketing for the business?
Right. So most of the marketing that we do now is pretty much just the Amazon PPC. However, the way we set it up and how we're running it is, I think, part of the success that we're seeing. It's definitely beyond what our competitors have set up, and the performance is showing based on that. However, we've been doing a good amount of testing on, influencer marketing and TikTok advertising, and the potential there is so exciting. That's the reason that we're really going to be hitting this hard come next year. But at the same time, speaking to friends and advisors, they know that potential buyers already have that level of skill in their toolkit. And they're looking at businesses like this that they can just pick up and really throw a good chunk into marketing and turn it into double the value in a very short amount of time. And so, that's kind of part of the reason I'm here.
Yeah, that's a good shout. I mean, it might not be your forte, but as you say, a buyer could come along with strength in that area and really grow the business. So that's an important thing to note. So Joel, if you were to keep the business, what are some of the ways that you would try to grow it in the coming months?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So it's all kind of planned out for next year, but we're looking at launching new products that are complementary, also potentially getting into other Amazon marketplaces because now we're only in the US. It's also really attractive. I spoke to a consultant for brick and mortar retail, and in terms of specialty retail and big box retail, they would eat this up. And then, of course, being a kid's product and being something that parents are just really hungry to get for their kids, TikTok, Instagram, from what we've seen so far, people are super happy just to receive and then share to their followers, even do giveaways. And we only really need to sell one more of that product from their efforts in order to break even. So any interactions outside of Amazon in which we're sending a product out is going to end up increasing the bottom line. So it's got so much potential in terms of where it can go that I think it really deserves to be in the hands of somebody who has a vision of what that potential is. It could be me, and it could be someone listening right now. I'm not sure, and that's what I'm here to explore.
Yeah, that's a very exciting prospect, and it certainly sounds like the business has a lot of potential. So I'm sure buyers will be listening in very keenly. Joel, can you walk me through your supply chain process? Where are your suppliers based, and how does inventory get from the supplier's factory to the Amazon warehouses?
Yeah, so the manufacturing is done in China. I actually went over there personally to set that up, and I was very, very picky into getting the perfect supplier and the perfect product quality, the right expectations. I didn't want to have any hiccups along the way. I wanted to have everything with a good foundation from the get-go. And so there's a very close relationship that I have with the manufacturer, and, quite simply, bunch get made and they get shipped out, and we have a shipper who handles everything, and he's just been consistently amazing with great rates, even during this very interesting year that we've had with sea shipping. And yeah, it gets to FBA and then it gets sold. And this year we're starting to explore, of course, the use of 3PL and drip feeding and stuff like that. But overall, quite a simple process, just kind of a button push and it gets done.
Yeah, great. That definitely does sound like quite a streamlined process. So it sounds like you enjoy being personally involved in all the different aspects of the business. Can you walk me through what your typical work week looks like? How many hours per week do you work and what sort of tasks take up your time?
Oh boy, you're catching me at a time that I've been slacking off, Honestly, there's not much work that gets done. A lot of the work is really getting everything set up, and there's not really many fires to put out. Things come in, they get sold, and they get restocked, and rinse and repeat. However, for the next level of where this business would go, it's going to require a lot of care and a lot of inspiration and vision, I think. And, I say that, and there might be listeners who are rolling their eyes who already have marketing teams set up as like, it requires none of that. It just requires manpower, and we're here to make it happen. So it requires something more than what I'm giving right now, which is not a lot.
So for the person who would come in and take over the business, what sort of skills or requirements would you say that they would need in order to run the business successfully?
Right. So, the business is quite streamlined. At this point, there's not really much involvement other than, maybe communicating with the manufacturer for the orders, setting things up. If they're not familiar with how kind of the back end of Amazon works with the listings and stuff like that, there's a bit of a learning curve with that. But other than that, not much as it stands. And if they want to grow it, of course, there's going to be all kinds of different things that they're going to have to learn unless they already know it. But yeah, nothing too significant to mention that they would need in terms of the skill set. Maybe just a passion for making money would probably help.
Yeah, definitely. It sounds like a well-streamlined business. So that's definitely a big plus. What would you say are the biggest risks associated with the business that buyers should be aware of?
Yeah, well, there's certain benefits and downsides of it being a seasonal business. It's quite a sought-after product for gift giving around holiday time. And so we do see the majority of our sales coming around November and December every year. However, it is a summer product, and with, more attention given to marketing and being seen over the summer periods, it could be also, quite an evergreen business as well outside of Amazon. But other than that, not really any risks to write home about.
Great. Well, I'm sure buyers are reassured to hear that. Obviously, you know this business inside and out. What sort of support are you willing to offer the buyer to help ease the transition?
Oh, well, I think that's pretty important. There is so much in my brain that I know about every aspect, and I think there's going to be a million questions for anybody who's going to adopt this child. So of course, would be available for, any assistance for the coming months after a sale, general conversations of, hey, how does this work? I'm quite open to helping in that. I enjoy helping where I can. So it would be no different for someone who's going to take something that I created and make something even extra special from it. So,
well, great. I'm sure buyers will definitely appreciate all of that support. When it comes to negotiating the sale, are you open to something like an earnout?
Right. In terms of an earnout, the way I envision this business getting purchased, I envision it being people who are looking for a business specifically like this, where it's just at the perfect time, perfectly ripe fruit for the picking to turn it into something that they have the experience or they know that they can do. And with that said, I'm happy to help where I can, but I think it's something that really, if we're going to continue with the analogy of adopting a child, you wouldn't want to adopt half a child. So it's something that I would want to pass on to really gift to the person who is, taking ownership of it and to support them on the first steps of their journey in the new chapter of this business.
Yeah, absolutely. Fair enough. Would you be willing to commit to something like a non-compete agreement?
Absolutely. I think it would be unfair otherwise, because this is really, it's a creation of a concept and it's kind of a brainchild in a way. If I was to purchase an idea and a company from somebody and made the same thing again and then competed with me, I think it would be very unfair. So absolutely, I think it's to be expected. Upon the transition of this to a new owner, I would not be interested in looking at e-commerce for many years to come. I'd be taking a break.
So the last question to wrap up the interview, and you've touched on this at various points throughout the interview, but if you could sum up what you've spoken about, why do you think this is a business worth buying?
Well, yeah, like you said, I've definitely touched on it a couple times, but in summary, and, back to the analogy of the fruit, I think it's, from what I've spoken to with other people and from where we are planning to go with it next year, it is in the perfect position to really be propelled into a next category of an e-commerce business. I feel like many Amazon businesses might have difficulty in generating sales off Amazon and transitioning off Amazon. However, this is something that as soon as it's seen, people just jump at it. And so it's almost like it sells itself. And that's where the real opportunity lies. I envision somebody picking up this business and, we're sharing some conversation a year later and the business is 6 times what they bought it for or something like that. It can easily be done with those who have the experience or have the vision and have the time and have the resources. And I guess that's why you guys exist in the first place, is to connect those kinds of people with people like me who have businesses that are perfect for them.
Yeah, well said. And I think those are all very compelling reasons why I think buyers will be very interested in this business. Is there anything else you'd like to share with the listeners before we finish the episode?
No, I think that pretty much sums up everything. Thanks for having me.
Great, Joel. Thanks so much for being on the show. I think our listeners have learned a lot from your advice.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Anytime. All right, everyone. Thanks for listening. To learn more and see if this listing has already been sold, head over to empireflippers.com/marketplace and search for listing number 57283. If you're watching this on YouTube, click the link in the description to go straight to the listing. Once you've unlocked this listing, you'll be given everything you need to know about this business. So until next time, enjoy your digital journey.